Are you setting the wrong money goals? As the year draws to a close, our attention turns to festivities, family, and the fast approaching new year. But have you ever paused to consider how this season can be a pivotal moment for your dinero? Think about it. When you are most relaxed is when you can think more clearly. And when you think more clearly, you can be really the most productive, which is really such a golden opportunity to set the stage for your financial success. So grab your favorite warm beverage, settle in, and let's make sure that you're equipped to create money goals that serve you. Bienvenida. I'm Jen Hemphill. Over the years, I've been on a mission to empower countless of women through this podcast and my financial counseling services. My expertise in personal finance isn't just a result of my own life experience or a few Google searches. I hold an accreditation as a financial counselor, which is a commitment to meeting the highest standard to serve you better. So how exactly are we going to go about this? Back in January 26th of the year 2016, I released an episode 34, if you want to check it out, about setting money goals and how to win with them. Today, we're going to talk about that episode and see what has changed in 7 years. Will I still have the same advice or has something changed? I want to make sure that you make money goals that really serve you versus drain you, ones that will get you excited versus feeling dragged to do something that you feel forced to do. When it comes to making wrong money goals, I have been there because I have been doing money goals where things that I thought I needed to do for our finances. And not to say that they were a failure, but they didn't work out how I wanted to. And I didn't know why that was happening. I knew how to create goals and it just wasn't working out. And I'm sure you've been in the same spot where you have some sort of money goal, but something doesn't give, or you just don't feel excited, or maybe you had a setback, whatever it may be. What I'm going to share with you today is going to help you so you can create better money goals, create money goals that do serve you, not the wrong ones. And I'm going to talk about which ones are the wrong ones in a moment. This segment of That's Money is brought to you by Cash App. It's payday again, and let's face it, we've seen this movie before. There goes El Tío Jose with the check in hand, marching to the check cashing place instead of a bank. Can you picture him right now? Standing in a never-ending line, dreaming about his favorite soccer team winning the championship and wishing he was watching the game instead. And that look of ¿qué es esto? When he sees those pesky fees eating into his hard-earned cash. I don't blame him because you can pay 1 to 12% in fees at these check cashing places. That's painful. And over time, those fees that you could be saving can be used towards other things like emergency savings, the car maintenance, or a future quinceañera. We all know the drill, but El Tío Jose, he's stuck in his it's complicated relationship with banks. But what if I told you if there was a better way for El Tío Jose with Cash App? Say hasta luego to those long lines and frustrating fees. With Cash App, Tío Jose can do his banking from his smartphone. It's like having a bank in his pocket. He can even enjoy his siesta a little longer on payday. Just imagine Tío Jose sipping his cafecito and smiling because he knows he's got everything under control. All he needs to do is order his free cash card to start. No more lines, just pure convenience. And hey, with the money El Tío Jose saves, he can finally treat you to those delicious tacos or mouth-watering empanadas. So it's a win-win. Help your Tío Jose head over to the App Store or the Google Play Store to download Cash App. And that concludes our That's Money segment. Now let's return to our main episode. One of the things that I addressed in episode 34 is why money goals aren't working for us. And here is what I said back then. Remember, I told you I was going to share with you why our money goals aren't aren't working for us. And this is the piece why I think why it's not working for us. It's because we're not clear. We don't have clarity as to what we want. We are only following what the experts want us to do, what we're told and what we think we're supposed to do. But what we really need to do is get clear as to what we want in our life and really know what that looks like. I have to say that years later, I still believe this wholeheartedly. We have so much information thrown at us about what we need to do with our finances. It's all well intended, but what I think happens is that when we hear or read this advice on what to do, we find ourselves, and then we find ourselves not doing it. It casts doubt. It can have us thinking that we're doing it all wrong. So we move forward in setting goals on what we are advised to do in the media, in books, and so forth, but really not look at our household needs. Let's put this in perspective. Let's say you have a child with special needs, and naturally in that situation, more of your money is going towards serving your child with special needs. And of course, the money that you have is only going so far. So then you get into debt. And then that leads to feelings of shame and failure. Instead, you need to look at your specific situation, your specific season of life, and know that you're doing your best. The focus in this instance needs to be on your child. Here's another example, and a more personal one to me. So years ago, we were needing, especially at the beginning of our marriage, we were needing to make big purchases, such as furniture, such as the washer, the dryer, a fridge, all those stuff. And we, instead of going into debt, we really went into our savings. We drew upon that and we chose not to go into debt. Of course, that meant we weren't saving more, we weren't investing, we weren't doing all those things at that time. So we can look at it one or two ways. We can look at it as failing because we weren't saving like we were supposed to, we weren't investing for our retirement like we were supposed to. Or we can look at it, hey, we didn't get into debt. We really intentionally took money out of our emergency savings and those places to make these bigger purchases and not get into debt. So you need to look at it from a different perspective versus what is being thrown at you at the media. Oh my gosh, don't get into debt. Make sure you save. Make sure you invest. All of those things. They're well intended, but you have to look at your own situation. In episode 34, in that episode, I talk about a 4-part framework. When I looked at what that was, some of it still holds true. Part of the framework is about gaining clarity. So let's hear what I had to say back then. This first part of the framework of gaining clarity is just all about listing what you want. So we're not going to worry about the terms of SMART goals and all that. We're not going to worry about that here. The first part is just listing everything you want. If you can say your goals, what you want out in life, and just focus on writing this as much detail as possible. So that is the first part of the framework, because usually when people talk about goal writing, I can't say they never talk about this, but you don't hear this enough. They just tell you to write goals and write it with the acronym SMART. But I want you to shift and take a step backwards and gain clarity as to what is it you want in life? What does that look like? And list all those things. And don't be afraid to dream big. Allow yourself to receive these things that you want, to receive the life that you want. You've probably heard me say how much power there's pen to paper. You can gain so much clarity in writing. Just focus on writing as much detail as possible. There's a quote that I really love that says, clarity is power. The more clear you are about exactly what it is you want, the more your brain knows how to get there. And the author of this quote is unknown. Maybe you really want to get out of debt, for example, but you don't know where to begin. How do you gain clarity around that type of goal when you're clueless as to what to do? You just start with getting out a notebook and write and write and write some more. Be specific on the debt. and think about baby steps. Answer questions like, what is stopping you? What are the challenges around paying this debt off? What are some small actions that you can take to pay off that debt? Why is paying off this debt important? How is it going to change your life? How will that free you up money? What will it do with your household finances? And just make sure that you're taking care of yourself. This is important. You really can't have clarity when you are tired or overwhelmed. So just make sure when you do that, you are rested and not overwhelmed. I also talk about prioritizing in terms of long, short, midterm goals. And here is what I said back then. The second part is about prioritizing. And that's something that is something, a challenge for people that I've worked with, is prioritizing those goals. Because again, it comes down to, what should I do first, right? Because we want to look at the experts and, well, you should pay this high interest loan off first. But what in essence, you really need to look at, again, getting clarity on what you want and listening to yourself, not being afraid to listen to yourself. While you can do that, to make things simpler, just prioritize what's most important to you right now. What would make most sense? What can you achieve the fastest and create some quick wins around? No one wants to be working on goal for years. Let's face it. You can actually, those long-term or midterm goals, you can break those goals down into smaller goals that are more achievable and more quick to achieve. I also, in that episode, talked about flexibility. Being flexible and gentle with yourself is so important and so overlooked. I talked about it then. I'm talking about it now. Life will happen, and sometimes you may achieve a goal like paying off debt only to fall back in debt. Has that happened to you? It reminds me of my own health journey. For example, the time that I gained weight, and I thought that if I did certain steps and lose the weight, I would be set, right? I did those things and I would be set. But weight fluctuates no matter what. Like life fluctuates. Your money fluctuates too. I think about it, your income, what you spend, the decisions that you make. You need to practice compassion. Now, here's a side note. You have to be honest with yourself, because maybe you're making excuses and you know you're making excuses. So if you are, you got to check yourself. But if you're giving yourself a hard time, that's when you really need to practice compassion, when you need to be gentle with yourself, and when you need to be flexible. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode and that you have gotten a lot of it. The trouble with not having a goal is that you can spend your life running up and down the field and never score. That is a quote by Bill Copeland. So to avoid creating the wrong money goals, make sure that you trust yourself. You know what's best. You want to gain clarity on what it takes, and you want to prioritize what is most important, and be flexible and practice compassion with yourself. And this is the last quote I'm leaving you with, because I'm loving this. If you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hopes. That's by Andrew Carnegie. Next week, we get to meet an amazing Latina comedian that will be sure to inspire you with the belief she has had in herself and her tenacity. Bueno, pues that is everything. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode and taking time out of your busy schedule. You can check out the show notes over at jenhemphill.com/375. That is jenhemphill.com/375. Remember that being the reina of your dinero starts now simply by claiming it. I believe in you, and so should you. Nos hablaremos el próximo jueves. Ciao.